pops up in the chat and see that over as
Good
well.
evening. Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? I am extremely excited to have who I can truly call, right? How many of you have that person in your life, right? Where God kind of just like drops them in your life and you're like, dude, where have you been like kind of all my life? Like as a friend, as a accountability partner, as a confidant, someone that you just kind of like gravitate to like almost immediately and you kind of trust, right? That's the
Mhm.
person that we're going to be talking to tonight. And his name is Walter Strong III. But before we get into talking to Walter, let's go into a little bit of the sponsorship for tonight's show.
I didn't
All
do it.
right. So tonight the title says YouTube, strategies, right? Because he is a YouTube coach and he is also a video consultant as well. We will touch upon that tonight. But whenever we get together, we start talking about a whole bunch of different topics that we know are going to be relevant to everybody here tonight. So while the topic is going to be YouTube strategies, and we're definitely hit upon that, if you are in the live stream, if you're looking at this live, if you have a question, you have a comment, please do not hesitate to go ahead and actually put that there, and we can actually have a discussion with you, because that's what this whole process is about. It's about having a conversation, not just with Walter and myself, but with you as well, who's out there in the community listening. So today we are streaming on 3 different platforms. We are on YouTube, we are on LinkedIn, and we are on Facebook. And we happen to have groups and channels on each and every one of these. So please, if you are thinking about this idea about coaching, taking yourself to another level, taking yourself from where you are to where it is that you need to, that where you want to go, we can assist you with that as well. We have a thriving community on Facebook. And the reason I say community, because it's so important that you have a place where you can kind of go and kind of let your hair down and just be yourself. And we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we take the journey that we are on very seriously. So it is Worthy Retail You coaching, and it's on Facebook, and you can actually find us there as well. And then we also have our YouTube channel, and it is actually Steve Worthy for the YouTube channel. And then go ahead, hit me up on LinkedIn at Steve Worthy, and you will be able to find the group that's there as well. Everything that you see tonight, all the overlays, all the fancy things, all the things that kind of transpired tonight is via Ecamm Live. One of the things that when I started to do this live stream piece, I tried to figure out what was going to be the best platform for me. I used them all. When I say I used them all, I used them all and spent a lot of money trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. But what I did was I stumbled upon this community, Ecamm Live community. And honestly, I was a lurker in that community for about 5 months before I pulled the trigger. I was looking at the process. I was looking at what people were doing. And I realized that this is exactly what I needed for my brand and for what I wanted to put out there in the live stream sphere, if you will. And so Ecamm Live is the platform that I use. After the show, there's going to be a link. If you're thinking about utilizing Ecamm, we are an affiliate. And if you have any questions about it, please, I will give you a live demo myself. We can schedule a time and I can show you everything, the behind the scenes and how everything goes. Actually, my guest, Monique Russell, last week, her and I are getting together. She's thinking about doing Ecamm Live. So I'm telling you, it is going to be the platform for you. So tonight, Mr. Walter Strong. I met Walter as I was going and trying to develop this process of who we wanted to be as a brand with Worthy Retail You. And we have another project that we have going on as well. And I stumbled upon this gentleman, and he was just extremely authentic. He was trying to grow and he has been growing his YouTube channel, and he was just extremely consistent with what he was doing. And that consistency for me was infectious. that consistency for me, actually, I was a little bit jealous because I wasn't as consistent as he has been. However, he was humble enough to say, hey, you want to reach out? Let's connect. And I think our first time connecting, we spoke for about maybe, I don't know, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour or so like that. But then it just became regular conversations with this gentleman. So I'm going to allow Walter to kind of introduce himself a little bit more. How you doing, big guy?
Good evening, Steve. Good evening to the audience. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to be live tonight with you all. It's truly I'm humbled and honored. So I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. For those of you who are meeting me for the first time, I'm Walter Strong the Third. I am an online coach and video consultant. Who I have a YouTube channel, as Steve has mentioned. The goal of our channel is to help new and existing YouTube creators to find their passion and purpose on YouTube so that they can broaden their reach, their impact, and income through online video. And that's what we've been doing it on the channel. We also have a live stream show that we do every Saturday at 11 a.m. where we're interviewing other fellow YouTube creators who are up and coming that are growing. And we've been fortunate also to be able to bring on more established YouTube creators who have gotten their silver playlists, who've monetized, who've went full-time businesses. And so it allows us to have a platform to bring them on to help coach and to train other growing YouTubers and to show them that the myth of established YouTubers don't have anything in common with small YouTubers. We've been able to shatter that myth that is definitely not the case.
Excellent. Well, before we get into some conversation here tonight, we want to say hello to everybody that's out there as well. And we have Miss Anna Hill. Hi, she says hello, guys. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining.
Good evening.
Oh, speaking of heavy hitters, man, Monty Weaver, dude, thank you so much for joining. He just says fire, which is awesome. I will take that as a massive compliment coming from this guy. If you haven't checked out his channel, please go ahead and check out Monty Weaver's channel. And then always the faithful Lori Williams. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here as well. So
I think you missed your point where when Laura came, you should hit the applause button.
I know,
people
right? I know.
People who are faithful always should get the applause.
There you go. There you go. That is for you, Laura. That is for you. So so people may think I'm crazy, right? As a leader, throughout my entire career, one of the things that I've always looked at was that whenever I talk about people and hiring people, one of the first questions I always ask them is like, what do you do outside of work? Right. And if they don't really have like a hobby or something that they're really going after, then a lot of times I don't hire them because I need you to have something else other than work that's actually going to be a passion project for you, possibly, and something else that you can do. The reason I'm going down this line is because a lot of the people that I talk to and work with now, a lot of them are YouTubers or they're aspiring YouTubers. And as a coach, I have a lot of people that I coach that are thinking about trying to do something else. And so having you on the show tonight is actually helping me in two different ways. It's helping me kind of understand the idea of maybe helping somebody from a coaching standpoint and giving them some tools to kind of work with from a coaching standpoint, but then also helping those individuals that I work with to probably say, hey, have you ever thought about doing this, trying something that's kind of outside your wheelhouse? And so you're going to be providing me with some tips. So I'm kind of selfishly, but everybody that's out here in the audience, I'm quite sure that they're going to be able to learn something from you and your journey tonight. So Walter, speaking of journey, right?
Okay.
So, talk to me about, why YouTube and why you felt that was like the right kind of process and project and an area for you to move into.
Great question. So I started doing YouTube as a passion project because I had such a passion for men's ministry. Being a part of our church's men's ministry, being a men's advisor, I just always had this desire to want to do more and be a part of more. But you have to kind of understand where your men's ministry or where your ministry is and to learn appreciate that it's going to grow over time. But I just kind of felt like that I wanted to do more. I wanted to be exposed more. I wanted to share more content. And then of course when the pandemic happened, everything shut down, and so the ability to meet with men in ministry was basically taken from us, of course.
Mm.
And of course we may have met on Zoom and on online video, virtual media mediums, but I was like, there's got to be more. And so I started a YouTube channel specifically just to encourage other men. And this will tie into leadership as well, because I'm very passionate about being a great husband. I'm passionate about being a devoted father. I'm passionate about being a faithful son. And so a lot of the content centered around that. As I started making content for men, um, the channel started to grow very slow because I realized I was challenging men to put in the comments or the
Mm.
chat to share about men's issues. And sometimes as men, we're just not comfortable with that. Let's just put it on the table. But more women began to respond. And then I had to begin to understand, okay, I got to pivot here because I'm attracting not only men, but I'm attracting women. And so as a result of pivoting, the content began to be focused towards men and women to encourage women about what goes on inside the head of a man, what goes on inside the heart of a man when he's silent and gives you all these um, non-responsive answers that we do with our
You giving
wives and
away
everything.
trade secrets, man?
Yes,
You,
I am. Yes, I
I'm
am.
sorry. Go ahead.
And so, but I'm because I was so passionate, it was like, okay, all of this is good. This is what I wanted to do. YouTube began to teach me that you got to make content what's good for your audience at the end of the day, regardless of how passionate I was. And so I went through a third pivot where, as the channel began to evolve, where I just began to make content to encourage other people who are passionate and they want to have a purpose in life and what they want to do. Now, that's an extremely broad audience, and we'll kind of get into some of the tips
Mm-hmm.
and strategies about niching down and finding your niche. So that's how the channel, and I began to have educators, small business owners, entrepreneurs on, and because YouTube is a type of platform where you have to have content towards a specific audience, the growth just wasn't happening. And so I just began to challenge myself to start an interview show. I cut my teeth in interviewing family and friends. And then one day
Mm-hmm.
I accepted the challenge to say, let me try to reach out to some fellow YouTubers to bring them on to teach us as new YouTubers how to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the journey so far. I think I started in 2019, so I'm still a baby, 2 years old. I'm in my terrible twos.
What's one thing, man, that you wish you would have learned or knew before you started, right? Because a lot of people are jumping into this, they're not blind because there's so many videos out there, right? But
Hmm.
of course, a lot of the videos always make it seem out to be perfect, like like there wasn't any type of struggle.
Hmm.
And I think that you and I both know that as you kind of start along this journey, there is some struggle and there's some fears and some other things that we'll get into as well. But what's one of those things that you wish you would have learned, or knew before you had started this process?
I will give you 1A and 1B. 1A is finding my true passion,
Mm.
because I had a passion what was important for me. But there's, I believe, ultimately for us content creators, podcasters, leaders, there is a true passion that God has given each and one of us that is supposed to serve and meet the needs of other people. And I had to be able to find that passion. And so when you find that passion, you begin to understand that have the ability, you have a platform where you can address the pain points in other people's lives. You can provide answers to questions that they are struggling with to have answered, and you can be able to provide solutions to challenges that they are dealing with. So that's 1A, finding your passion. And then 1B is go ahead and make 50 to 100 videos and don't focus whatsoever on trying to get subscribers,
Mm.
because YouTube, unfortunately, is the type of platform where you'll start seeing videos on how to get your first 100 videos subscribers, how to get your first 1,000 subscribers, all the vanity metrics. And as a new content creator, we don't need to be focusing on that. We need to focus on how to make good quality videos. We need to learn how to develop confidence on camera, and we need to know how to just become familiar with the whole process, the learning curve. So not focusing on subscribers, because when you focus on subscribers, you're going to take your eyes off the most important piece of YouTube, and that's the audience.
Mm, mm, mm. Before we get
That's
started
the
again, we
audience.
have a Facebook user. Hold up, wait a minute.
Minute.
Look at these, look at these champions online together. Excellent, excellent. I want to say that that's um, uh, James Hicks, but it's not showing up. But
Okay.
usually he'll say,
Okay.
"What's up, bro?" So it's probably
All right.
it probably is him. So you
Shout
know,
out to Mr. Hicks.
I think it was Mr. Hicks, maybe him, or it could be JP High Tech. You know, you hit upon a couple of things, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we are a results based, like, you know, culture, right? You
Mm-hmm.
start thinking about whatever it is that you're trying to do. There are the results that actually, that you will generate based on your output, whatever it may be. And so you think about the subscribers, you think about whatever it is, the idea of a person not looking at, that as an output,
Mm-hmm.
or excuse me, as the results of their output, right? It's hard, right, for
Mm-hmm.
people not to kind of take a look at that and say, okay, oh my gosh, well, I got like two more, I got five more, like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
got six more, but I think to your point, what you're trying to say is that it's not so much the result, it's just it's the process that's more important than anything else. Or is that, or am I misspeaking?
No, you're exactly right, because content is what people are looking for. Rather, if you're looking for content on let's take Netflix for example. Netflix came on the scene, and what? And I realize I'm much younger than you, so this is before your time, and this is before your audience. You remember Blockbuster?
Did you just say that you were much younger than me? Did you, hold up for a second. I'm sorry, I ain't gonna
I'm
kick
not
you
gonna
off.
say old. I'm not
I
gonna
ain't gonna
say I'm
kick you
older
off,
than you,
man.
so I'm gonna say younger.
I ain't gonna kick you off, man. Go ahead, finish your point, man, before
But you remember Blockbuster?
this
You
old dude get at you.
what they say, wisdom before youth. So that's why I'm young. So you're the one with the wisdom. But anyway, I digress. But you remember how we used to stand in, you're originally from New York, we used to stand in the Blockbuster line on Friday night
Yeah.
wanting to get the latest new release because we wanted the content. And that content was so important that we would sit in that Blockbuster line for almost 30 to 45 minutes,
Mm,
driving the rain, the snow to get the latest release. Netflix said, well, it probably was Red Door, but Netflix said, let's take this to another level and make this a live streaming content for them to be
mm,
able to watch. It's the content. And so, yes, it's yes, you got to press record. You got to upload your first video. But to learn to make quality content, rather if that quality content is for leaders,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
retail leadership, because if you're going to do content for leaders and leadership, that's very broad. But if you
Right.
said retail leadership, now you've niched down to say I'm going to learn to make content that's going to speak to the retail leader, on how to reinvent yourself and be able to take your business to the next level going through a pandemic. Oh, we need to do curbside
Mm,
um, pickups, curbside for pickups for our customers. We
mm-hmm,
got to be able to do deliveries. We got to be able to change certain things, and to be able to make content like that, that the audience will say, I want to learn. I want to learn more about this and apply this. And so it's about the content, because we're making videos and we don't understand that the video is the content. But then we see that the videos are bad because
mm,
there's lack of views, and we just don't understand that that's just a process of, we all didn't know how to play the violin
Yeah.
or the guitar when we started off, and we didn't realize that you got to get better at it, if that makes sense.
No, make 100%, man. 100%, man. You know I'm tracking with you. What 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 are some what are some of the ingredients, if you will, for quality content, right? Because I honestly think, or does that depend on the audience, right? I mean, because I've watched content that I have found to be really good that doesn't really, like, photography, things like that. Even though I'm doing video and all this live streaming and things like that, I've watched a ton of photography, videos that I'm like, man, this is so well put together. I mean, it's just the storyline and all of that stuff. So, but are there certain ingredients that a creator will need in order for it to say it's a quality piece of content?
Yes, definitely, and great question. And so I believe, as a new content creator, new YouTuber, that's starting out, and you're learning to start making your first 30 to 50 bad videos, some say your first 100 bad videos, um, you begin to understand that there is a secret sauce, there's a process. Being able to have a good topic, not only having the topic, which is your content idea, then having a good title, a good description, and a quality thumbnail, especially for our mobile users who scroll and scroll looking for content on their phone, whether on the train,
Mm,
whether waiting for their son or daughter at the football game for practice to be over. Making a good quality thumbnail that'll make them stop and click. So let's take the topic for a minute, and we'll use individuals that are in the mortgage industry. Well, if you say you're going to start a YouTube channel and that's going to create mortgage content, maybe you want to make content that's geared towards first time home buyers. Well, there's your content idea, but you got to come up with a good title. Well, 5 best tips, 5 important points for
mm,
first time home buyers to know when you go into the process. If you're a first time home buyer, that's going to be something. And there's your topic, there's your title. You put a little description on about those 5 points, a little small summary, and then a thumbnail of a maybe of a couple that is coming up and approaching their dream house. They're first time home buyers, but they
mhm.
see a house that they really want. Chances you're going to click on that, right? You know your wife
Yeah,
is going to click on it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
may not click on it.
yeah, yeah.
So it's those tips, those strategies that, over a process of time, that a YouTuber is going to know. Now, if you come from the industry of film, if you come from the industry of video photography and those things, or if you've been in entertainment and things, like who've done like Netflix or behind TV, those things you may already know. So you can be able to speed your process up. But the average person like me and you, that's something we have to learn.
Hmm.
And then after we do that, we begin to see more views. The more views we get, YouTube will begin to put your content before more people.
Now, so it seems like what you're getting at too, because everything you were telling me, talking to me about, I started to visualize what the video was going to be about before I even looked at the video.
Mm-hmm.
Right, from the title,
Mm-hmm.
from the topic,
Mm-hmm.
from the thumbnail, right? All of those things kind of need to tell a story, before that person even clicks. So that's what's actually going to get them to click. Am I mistaken in
You
that,
don't
or
know.
what?
You're correct, because you're correct, especially if you in a competitive niche um, of mortgaging tech. Our good friend James Hicks, he can speak to that, and being involved with tech. Another person that comes to mind is the gentleman you had on yesterday, Mr. Ash Bolin,
Mm-hmm.
podcasting. Being able to create content in such a way, think of the package.
Mm-hmm.
Going in, you've worked retail, and you walk down the retail aisle, and you have to have that retail aisle with each of those products that are you want the consumer to purchase, it has to be packaged in such a way it's going to get them to stop instead of just strolling down the aisle. The package has to be presented in such a way that it will make them stop and to say, Johnny wants some cereal. Does he want Lucky Charms? Does he want does he want Cocoa Puffs? Or does he want Raisin Bran? The way you put that package together in that retail store, or as a content creator and putting your package together, is what's going to get the person to stop and to watch it. The content becomes that as you've developed and become and perfected to make your content, is the next piece is
Mhm.
that's going to keep them watching.
Excellent.
If that
Excellent.
makes sense to our
No, it
viewers.
makes 100% sense, right? So, one of the things that you've heard us talk a lot about, it almost comes up in not every episode or every stream that we do, but is this
Mm-hmm.
idea of imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were starting your channel,
Mm-hmm.
and you were thinking about having certain people on your channel, and you started down this list, you had this vanity list, and you're like, dude, like I would love to have X, Y, and Z on there, this person, that person. And then you got your first one, and then now you're starting to get your got some some big people on your show. How did you walk us through kind of that journey piece? Because I think there's just a lot of people who don't even though we're talking about content creation, right, we're still
Mm-hmm.
just talking almost a little bit about the human condition, if you will, and what we kind of go through sometimes on a professional basis, a daily basis, interpersonal basis, whatever it may be. We still maybe have those fears about, I may not be good enough. But
Mm-hmm.
walk us through some of that and your thought process.
Definitely, that's a great question. So let me try to be respectful of time and to kind of really break this down for our viewers tonight. So the journey that I can classify myself as a recovering imposter syndrome person who was struggling, and I'm recovering from that because sometimes you kind of relapse and allow it to kind of rear its ugly head. But what helped me to really start to get a hold of that and saying that I can be able to do this was number one, to be able to believe in myself. I know it's simple to say, but once you become passionate about something, you really in your heart want to do this, you have to begin to believe in yourself just as much as other people believe in you. And it goes back to one of the first individuals who I interviewed, which were family members. And one particular family member had said to me that we got finished, and he said, "What did you go to college for?
Hmm.
What did you major in?" He said, "Did you major in broadcasting and communication and journalism?" I said, "No, I did business, regular business and management." He said, "Oh, you definitely missed your major." He said, "You need to be in broadcast and journalism and communication because you made me feel as a guest, feel welcome, wanted, and needed by your viewers."
Mm.
He said, and that's something that I don't see a lot of people who do shows, whether podcasting, live streams, or even on television. Most of the time, it's about themselves. Now, I heard that,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
didn't take it to heart. When I finally heard it again, it was from an established YouTuber who had over 1 million subscribers
Mm.
and 1 billion views. And he said, I had been watching you cut your teeth, which is point number two. I
Mm-hmm.
was watching you in your beginning stages. You would make comments on my LinkedIn page, and I would just kind of see who you were, and I saw your journey and how you just cut your teeth. You were interviewing this person. You were interviewing. He said you really didn't. Yes, you were trying to find your focus, but you were consistent at it. And I think
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you touched on that in the beginning, being consistent. So believing in yourself, learning to cut your teeth, because to try to go after a Steve Worthy, if you're starting out, to try to go after a James Hicks, to go after some of these more. Let's say you want to bring Don Lemon on from CNN,
Mm.
but you haven't even got yourself out the gate. your expectations are just too unrealistic, and you got to learn how to cut your teeth. Um, be consistent. And when I say consistent, not in the sense of just showing up in front of the camera and going
Mm,
live,
mm,
having a consistent brand
yeah.
and a consistent message that your audience resonates with and they keep coming back to every Saturday. And so, and then lastly, setting yourself up for success, having a process. And what I mean by that is when you reach out to guests, which we'll get more into, a process that comes across professional
Yeah. Yeah.
and it doesn't come across spammy.
Yeah. 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 There's we were talking about that. No, actually, Ash and I weren't talking about that. We did talk about guests. I mean, you heard us talk a little bit about guests,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm in this other podcast marketing group, and we were talking about being a guest,
Mm-hmm.
on your show, yada yada yada. And I was talking about, we get a lot of we get a lot of requests. We get a decent amount of requests. I'm not gonna, we get a decent amount of requests to be on either the live stream or or even like the audio podcast, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But what we end up a lot of times, sometimes we get people who are the serial, like, interviewers, or the serial podcasters that
Mm-hmm.
say, now here's the thing, I'm not begrudging anybody for a goal to say that, hey, I want to appear on 100 podcasts, right? This year. I mean, my VA and I, we're setting to go for something like that next year.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it's different when you are just, you are getting on these same platforms or these same programs, and you're just saying the same thing over and over and over again. And so I think there's um a, an authenticity that you have where people want to come on your show, and you're able to pull, these guys are serial, if you want to say, and interviewees, but when you pull them on the show, you're able to pull something out of them that a lot of other people haven't been able to.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel? Why do you feel that is?
I think it comes one being coming across sincere that you want to build maybe not an offline relationship with them because of the times that we're living in, but you want to build a sincere online relationship again that is not spammy. And then number two, where you're doing your research about before you even approach them. You've done enough
Yeah.
research about this individual that you want to bring on, that when you begin to explain to them and say, hey, look, in my research, I've been able to see point A through C. You've done this and this. I see you just recently released a book. Um, and I really believe by providing a platform, that it will provide you the opportunity to be able to speak to my audience that I have, to encourage them through your story and your journey. And so the collaboration or bringing on the guest is always about putting them in a place where they can shine.
Yeah.
And when a
100%.
person sees that, they're willing to, if you will, let their guard down, because they can see that you didn't bring them on for the purpose to make yourself shine, or to say, look who I had on.
Mm.
Because I think we've talked in the past, someone brings you on, and once they have you on, they're doing more of the talking, then they're allowing you to be able to speak for the small amount of time that you're on, and you're saying, okay, why did you have me come on again for?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. But just doing your research. If you do your research, the you as the person who you're looking to bring on, they'll see it, because they'll be like, wow. And then also just engaging. See, for me to be on Worthy Retail, I started not watching you. I started listening to you many months ago when I was just going for my evening walks
Yeah, I
on a
appreciate that.
Friday night. And then when the time kind of changed, the weather kind of got colder, I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and sit in front of my computer now and watch you. So there was an online relationship built there.
Yeah.
I was able to do some research on you. So that's how you bring the best, and that wonderful smile that he has on his face.
Oh man, I appreciate that, dude. Listen, I mean, and that's and I think as I've been going down this journey, as well, just being able to come across people who are just, and I hate to keep using this word. I feel like I use it a lot because we have a shirt that says it. Authenticity has no competition, but
Hmm.
like that's really big for me. Like that is something that whenever I think about anything about a relationship, friendship, business relationship, or whatever it may be, authenticity has to be at the very top of it. I got to be able to relate to you
Hmm.
one way or another, and I have to be able to almost kind of trust you, you know, um, kind of carte blanche, and not really have to build a massive rapport. Because here's the other thing, man. You and I, James Hicks, Monte Weaver, Anna Hill, Laura, all these guys, everybody that's in the chat, right? We haven't met anybody in person per se, right?
Hmm.
A lot of
Right.
these relationships that we have built have been online. And it's been, um, listening to each other's content and
Hmm.
embracing each other's content. And I'm trying to draw a parallel in the context of interpersonal relationships with people who are in business. And because as we start to open up again and people
Hmm.
start to reconnect with people, they have to kind of understand how to kind of reconnect with people because
Hmm.
there's this, this video piece that they've been dealing with for so long. And a lot
Hmm.
of them don't have the ability to kind of reconnect again. What are some things that you would kind of help, some leaders and some people as they start to kind of go back out there and they start to kind of move back into the world, if you will? And how do they embrace like authenticity and kind of true connection, if you will, with people?
I think step number one is communication. I think
Mm,
one of the first things that the pandemic forced us to do in our own individual homes was to sit down across the table from the person that you said I do. If you're married, from the person that you said I do. It made you sit down across the table from your teenager and begin to open up and be able to have conversations. And it happened across the world, whether if you were in New York, Chicago, Maryland, California, we all. And then the communication piece is now when you get now because you were communicating now with your employers through Zoom. I don't think Microsoft Teams had really came on the scene. I think Zoom at the time was really more popular, but it began to open up communication virtually online. So now that you're opening up your businesses and your organizations, that same level of communication has to be there with your fellow employees or fellow managers, not talking at the person, but
mm-hmm.
talking to the person.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go down a different route
Okay.
for a last like 15 minutes or so.
Sure.
You right. So the several weeks ago, right? We were having a conversation, and you were telling me about like your music career,
Mm-hmm.
and you were telling me, and then you found your song online. If I'm correct, did you right?
Yes.
You found
Yes.
a song online. I'm not gonna play it because I don't have it. I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
This is not
I
that
thought
type
you
of
was gonna
show.
surprise our
Yeah, this
audience.
is
No,
not that
it's all
type of
good.
show. Yeah, we're like, hold on for a second. I got the song right here, and I got the producer. I'm gonna bring him on. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
not that type of show.
Right.
I'm interested in learning. You know, because you left Detroit and
Mm-hmm.
you moved to New York, right, Long Island, and that was like a massive kind of leap of faith for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think
Yes.
there's just a lot of people who are still maybe frightened to jump out there and do certain things, whether it's start a YouTube channel, whether it's get, executive coaching, whether it's start their own business, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it may be, right? If you can just kind of walk me through like what were you thinking about and were you fearful? Did you think that, hey, what happens if I don't become a success or whatever it is that may be?
Sure. I think if we're thinking back on the process, I think the biggest thing that was driving the most as a young black man, the narrative in Detroit, Michigan at that time was if you were under 25 as a young black man, and if you didn't work in the plants, and if you didn't go back to college, more likely you were going to be dead before 25, or even in jail,
Mm,
or selling drugs. And I just could not accept that reality for myself. Now, having a father, grandfather, who are, both in heaven now, they were pushing me towards the plants, and I just didn't want to go work for Chrysler or Ford. Family was trying to push me towards college. And so hip hop was a tool that really got me back into going back to get my GED, because I had dropped out of school in the ninth grade. And so when I finally dropped out of school and left, technically I should have been in the 11th grade. So
mm,
that was really almost 2 to 3 grades behind. And I walked away from school. I get involved with hip hop, listening to guys like Chuck D, Public Enemy, KRS-One. They begin to help me to see through hip hop that I needed to go back to school and get my GED.
mm,
But I fell in love with hip hop to the point that I was able to make my first record. And I said, okay, if I really want to be successful, I have to be willing to go to a place like New York. And so, myself and a friend who had no money in his pocket, I got $35 in my pocket, and I got a Bible, and we jumped on the Greyhound bus, and I came to New York, and I began to meet individuals like Russell Simmons. I met Chuck D over a period of time. I met Professor Griff,
mm,
and they gave me a very light, well, I'll say it as a life insurance type introduction to hip hop.
mm,
Because if you've ever been sold by a person, and this is no knock to life insurance people, but if you try to go into the industry of life insurance, they'll tell you this is not a salary business. It's a commission business.
yeah,
It
yeah.
means you got to get on the phone. So they will paint a picture to you to make you say, if this is what you really want, you really need to know the ins and the outs and how you're going to spend hours upon hours. But ultimately, it's successful if you put in the work. And that's what they did. And by the time me and Chuck D got finished talking, I began to understand, okay, maybe hip hop is not for me. Now I'm
Mm,
still in New York now. Do I go back home to Detroit and go into the plant? I didn't want to do that because I felt like I was being a failure. And so I just got me a job and I started working. I got into church, and from there I just began to just work and learn how to just become a responsible man. Now you may say that's a radical shift from trying to become a hip hopper. You could have easily did that in Detroit, but
mm,
I believe God orders our steps.
mm,
And I had an uncle who said something to me a couple of weeks ago when I was back home. He had said to me, you had to leave Detroit.
mm,
You needed to get out of Detroit so you could find yourself as a man. It just so happened to be hip hop was the tool that God used to bring you out of Detroit.
mm.
If you would have told me that I was going to leave and go to New York or California for anything else, I probably would not have left.
Right.
But he knew hip hop was going to be the tool to get me out of it. And then when I got to New York and I began, and this was right around the time when gangster rap was really starting to take off,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the conflict for me. I was more of a conscious, social conscious rapper who had a message, and I felt like that should stay around. But the industry was changing into what NWA was doing. It was changing more into Tupac and Biggie Smalls, and that's something that I couldn't connect with
Yeah.
as an artist because I feared my mother would come to New York and to hit me upside the head. So I just, hey,
That's
look,
it.
this is not
Mom ain't
meant
no
for me
joke.
anymore. So that's how I end up coming to New York. That's how I ended up staying in New York, and as a result, God bless me. Now I've been married, wonderfully married for over 20 years. Had I would have left, my marriage with my wife and my daughter probably would not have happened.
And people will probably wonder, like, when they listen to this, like, why is this dude, why is Steve asking them to talk about that story?
Hmm.
Because I feel that that same, Walter, that had that drive and that
Hmm.
zeal, and that passion for hip hop. I think it's been channeled now into YouTube, and I
Yes.
think all of that stuff that you went through, like anybody that's listening, all of that stuff that you go through, all of that stuff that you think is irrelevant, all of that stuff
Hmm.
that you want to push aside and you don't think it matters. I can't use that skill. I'm never going to use this, as we say in school when we start to study a topic, or that friendship that we had for just a season, not for a lifetime, but just for a season, and they were there and they
Hmm.
impacted us in a certain way. We fail to realize how all of those things, the culmination of them all, pushes us probably into some of the best decisions of our life, but also
Hmm.
kind of almost into our purpose. And we start to really kind of figure out this thing, and we're like, dude, this is exactly where I need to be. So anyway, I just wanted to tie it all together and let everybody understand,
Oh, that's
that
great.
piece to kind of where you are right now.
That's great. That's great. I'm gonna definitely listen to the replay a couple of times. Just sometimes you need to be reminded because just because you go down one road of journey or you start on one project and it doesn't turn out to be that gold or platinum record on your wall, I believe the other thing is, we see the documentaries of New Edition
Yeah,
that
yeah,
have come out. We see
yeah.
the documentaries of NAA. When I saw those come out, it was like God was saying, and no disrespect to anyone's faith tonight. I'm just got to let you know where I stand. I'm a believer in Christ. And so when God was allowing me to see those movies and those television series, he was basically telling me, as much as you were into R&B and rap, this is what I was keeping you from.
Mm,
This is what I was keeping you from because I felt like I had the talent to be able to be just as talented as an Ice Cube, as an Easy, but but what was behind the corner was the stuff that you saw that they were involved in.
hmm. Yeah, and that's the and that's the thing that a lot of times we get so upset because, myself included,
Hmm.
we get so upset because something that we really, really wanted in our life to transpire doesn't. And we get, but we get pushed into something else, or we get forced, maybe,
Hmm.
by our own decisions or whatever it may be, into something that we really don't like or we don't think is going to be good for us.
Hmm.
But if we really start to kind of peel back the onion and really kind of take ourselves out of this woe is me type of
Hmm.
mentality, you'll really start to realize that, you know, you're probably sitting right in your blessing. You're probably sitting right in where you're supposed to be. It's my old pastor when I lived in Charlotte, Pastor Philip Davis, and um, he gave me my first leadership book
Hmm.
when I was 26. I just left New York and I was down in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we were on the golf course, and
Hmm.
he would often talk about just this idea of leadership, and realizing that, hey, Steve, you're never going to get your PhD, in leadership, right? You're
Hmm.
you're always going to be striving. You're always going to be, going for something different, and so you always have to kind of realize that, you know, he said, there's no such thing as, everybody thinks like deja vu.
Hmm.
You're like, man, oh man,
Hmm.
I was supposed to be here. He said, I don't believe in that. He said, I believe that's where apologize for anybody. And I don't apologize, but he talks about it in the context of, that's when the spirit man and the worldly man, if it are lining up. They're like
Okay.
in sync. Like, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'll just say this for me personally. Whenever whenever I've had that happen to me, I would sit back and I would be like, whew, I actually am
Hmm.
exactly where I need to be. I
Hmm.
don't need to be anywhere else. I don't need to be doing anything else. I'm like right where I'm supposed to be. And I think a lot of times people get so anxious and worrisome about keeping up with the Joneses or about X, Y, and Z, and that they don't realize that, hey, man, maybe you're right where you're supposed to be. And the fact that you just want to keep going and do all this other stuff, you may miss out on something.
Definitely, definitely. And I think, if I could borrow a biblical principle from the life of Joseph, one of the things that I'm working on a book called Walking in God's Favor. And the Bible talks about Joseph being thrown in prison because of him being lied upon by Potiphar's wife. And the Bible specifically tells us that once he gets locked into prison, he's locked into the king's prison. So
Mm.
it was a particular prison. It wasn't locked into an ordinary prison, but the king's prison. So if we put that in today's time, you could have been in the county jail, you could have been in state, you could have been in federal, but he was in the king's prison. Now, why was it important for him to be in the king's prison? Even though he did not want to be there.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
was it? Because he would later meet the baker and the butler who would connect him
Mm.
to Pharaoh. So sometimes the favor of God has a way of putting us in a place where we don't want to be, that ultimately over time helps us to define our gifts, helps us to build our character,
Yeah.
and it helps us to learn how to serve others. Because for us to be put in a place where where we are restrained, where we feel like we can't grow, we can't move.
Yeah.
We've all been there on a job where we say, "I hate this job, and I don't want to be on this job." Well, God, why won't you get me off this job? God, why don't allow me to leave this church? Why don't you let me go of this passion to become an entrepreneur? I don't want to do this. It's because he has to refine our character.
Yeah.
He has to help us with leadership. He has to help us with serving others and developing our gifts and talents. So, what I'm saying is sometimes being in a place where you don't want to be is the place where God wants you to be.
Yeah. Man, the thing, and I love what you said, man. I think people need to get this, what you said, and they need to get this piece of it, is that they have to be in a position to receive it, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, he had to be in a position to receive the help when he was in the prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you are going through your journey, wherever you may be, you have to be in a position to receive correction, feedback, right? Ash and I were talking last night on Podcasters Live. We were talking about the difference between feedback and opinion, right?
Okay.
And and I love what he said, because he talked about opinion is when someone says, this is what I feel, right? It's like, hold on for a second, okay, that's your opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about feedback was in the context of like giving instruction or correction without emotional attachment to
Mm-hmm.
anything, to whatever that person is, that what they're doing. You just want to give feedback to somebody because you have experience in that field, and you want to help them, right? You want to help them grow. And so we listen to too many opinions about our work, our content, all this other stuff. And God's just like, dude, I'm giving you direct feedback and telling you what I need you to do. It's not my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. I'm telling you what you need to
Right.
do.
Right.
And you're not even listening to it. I love the last part you talked about, the refinement, right? We get a lot of questions about this little diamond here. Some people think it's a Superman shield, right? And the little
Okay.
thing I'm pointing at.
I see it. I
And
see
I
it.
talk about it, and I tell them it's a diamond, right? When I think about a diamond, I think about everything that it had to go through, the
Mm-hmm.
refinement process, the pressure, the imperfections, all of
Mm-hmm.
those things. And I think about it in the same context as a leader, right? Because even as a leader, even though you get to a certain point in your leadership, you're still flawed,
Right.
right?
Right.
You still have some things to work on. You never stop working on those things. And so that's why I keep that as a reminder for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm still growing, but there's still flaws in me
Hmm.
that I need to continue to work out as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. And if I would go back to Joseph, Joseph was in leadership, even though he he was in Potiphar's house. He was in a position of leadership.
Yeah.
So too much to the point that Potiphar said, "You got this. The only thing I care about is my wife and what I'm eating. You got everything in this house." He gets thrown into prison. The keeper of the prison does the same thing. He says, "The only thing I care about in terms of what I want to eat," he says, "but you in charge of everything else."
Ain't that something?
Leadership.
Ain't that
But
something?
just because we're in a position of leadership doesn't mean that we have arrived. It means all the more that there's more work for us. And I'll leave you with this thought that I am really chewing on. Before Joseph met Potiphar and was free, where he would be the second in command to the Pharaoh, he spent 2 years in prison.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing is said about him while he was in there, but he waited 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when he came out, he was now ready to,
Yeah.
and this may be for a person who is trying to become a CEO or who's trying to
Mm.
take on. I know we're talking about content creation, but this is content in the
No.
sense of you want to take on a level of responsibility of being a regional manager. Well, right now you're just a store manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you need to be in a place of silence.
Mm.
You need to be in a place of isolation so that way when you get before people who said they had your back but they didn't,
Yeah.
when you get in that place of regional leadership or national leadership, your character is in such a way
Come on,
where
man.
you don't take it
Mm.
as a personal attack to get back at them, but you understand they just played a hand in just getting you to that place of leadership,
Yes. Oh.
you know?
Whew. Man, I was just talking to someone today, and we were talking about when I was a young leader, one of the things that, and I still can do it to this day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of my superpower, if you will, is that
Mm-hmm.
I I can come into a room and
Mm-hmm.
I can identify who the true leaders are, and who the wannabe leaders are,
Okay.
and I can just I can smell it, I can see it, um, and as I was going up the ladders, years ago, I used that to position myself,
Mm-hmm.
to connect with the right people, right? Which is what people do normally. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was all with the all with the intent of moving to the next level. Period. That's all
Mm-hmm.
it was. There wasn't anything about bringing other people along for the ride. I learned that later on, with some of my failures. But what I realized is that, and that's why I can see it in other people. People are trying to position themselves so uniquely and succinctly with other
Mm-hmm.
people so that they can get to that next role. But when they get to that next role, they're not ready
Not
because
ready.
their heart isn't right.
Right.
Period. And I know we're talking about business, and I know we're talking leadership, but honestly, when they get to that next level, their heart isn't right because they position themselves and put on this facade, and now they're there and they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I coach these people. I
Okay.
coach them. I talk to them all day long about this, and it's disheartening because you wanna because when you're a coach, you have to help them get there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say this is what you need to do, right? You have to help them get to the realization of like, dude, that sucked. I can't believe I tried to do that, and
Right.
and and put in and put in all this work to position myself, and realize that I didn't even have the skill set, the requisite skill set, the beginner skill
Mm-hmm.
set to actually even get there. But I was such a smooth talker, I was able to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when we start talking about content creation and leadership and all these things that we're talking about, there has to be a sense of reality that people have to understand about themselves and about this journey.
Right.
You start looking at the subscriber base, dude. You just started. I was
Just started.
you just I was talking to um what was I talking to? Oh, Cher Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were talking, and she was on on the show, And she's talking about like nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what you do. Like
Hmm.
or what you did. They want to care they want to know what you're gonna do, what you're gonna do for them, how are you going to help impact them. I think we get so caught up in all this
Hmm.
stuff that we did, and we're not talking about what we can do and the value that we can add to people. So anyway, that was just sorry about the
No, no,
diatribe.
no,
I did the cardinal sin. I overtook the mic
no.
as the host.
It's okay. It's okay. But it all ties back in terms of I say to myself, these last 2 years, what if, and I know Marvel has the show called What If, but what if I would have had now about 5 to 10,000 subscribers,
Yeah,
or 20 or 50,000 subscribers?
that's a great question.
But the lessons that I've learned
Mm,
in being able to collaborate with individuals like yourself, like James Hicks, and to be able to network and build relationships with more established YouTubers, would I have learned those lessons being in the place where I said I don't want to be?
yeah.
And so sometimes, it, you know, I'll leave your audience with this thought. Most people who like to buy crayons for their children sometimes like to give their children the best crayons that are not broken, they're unused. But what I've learned is the best masterpiece that are made by children are broken crayons.
Mm,
Broken crayons have always made the best masterpieces. And I've learned to just view myself as a person that's not perfect, who doesn't know it all, but I got to be authentic. I got to be genuine. I got to provide value to other people. And as a result, I'll be able to produce the best masterpieces as a broken crayon.
amen. And I would let that be the last thought, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't let you go without
Okay.
talking to two things. First is about talking about your idea of the lunchroom table,
Okay.
because when we having that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote it, on towards the road. That's good, but that's a podcast episode for me.
Mm-hmm.
When we were having that discussion about the lunchroom table, we correlate. I'm not gonna. I'll let you tell the story. I'll let you tell it.
I guess where the concept came up as a content creator, as you're on this journey doing YouTube, podcasting, live streaming, whatever the platform you want to make your content, uh, blogging, if you're a person who does blogging, what happens is over time we become such long rangers that we keep ourselves in isolation, and we don't allow ourselves to be able to network and connect with other people. And what I learned is that that's definitely something in the journey that you can't allow yourself to become a prisoner of. You have to be willing to be like that student that's in either junior high or high school that's willing to come to the lunchroom. You're brand new to school. No one knows you. You don't know them, but you're in the lunchroom and you see all these lunchroom tables and you're saying, which one do I want to sit at? Do I want to sit at this table or do I want to sit at that table? Maybe you sit at this table today and you listen to the group of people there and you say, no, we're not vibing. You sit at another table and you say, okay, I think there's something there. You sit at another table and you're like, there's definitely not there. By the fourth or fifth day, you're like, you go to the table that you really vibe and click with. You people you have similar interests in and goals and objectives in. And as a result, you end up being part of a lunchroom table of people, of entrepreneurs, people who are future leaders and content creators that's going to challenge you. Like you speak a lot about the eCam community, even though I'm a person who has a PC and everything. I don't have a Mac, but I've heard so many stories about the eCam community that it's the type of lunchroom table that I'm quite sure at one time you were kind of checking out and saying, do I want to sit at this table? Uh, and for some people, I've heard stories where they had PCs and they just said, okay, I'm going to invest and buy all Macs because I need to be able to be a part of this eCam community and learn from the people who are running it. That to me, that's a true lunchroom table experience that is content creators as leaders,
Mm.
especially as his leaders, we have to learn.
Dude, I just absolutely love that because, you know, it kind of goes back to like that, that when I was saying like I can walk into a room and kind of identify
Mm-hmm.
now, as a more mature leader, when I
Mm-hmm.
walk into a room, I'm thinking about the, I'm not saying it now, but now I will. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about which lunchroom table do I want to sit at,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I can read the room and vibe and realize like, oh, nah, they phony, or like, okay, these two, they seem authentic, they joking, yada yada yada. Maybe I want to sit at that table as a leader,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of do that. You're like, okay, this is a good table,
Mm-hmm.
And I think people don't take the time enough to kind of, everyone sits at the cool kids table, and and all that stuff. But sometimes the cool kids ain't where it's at, man. They can't teach you anything. So
No, again, and see where I think we as content creators, especially in the online media, where we sometimes can make the mistake is, and see, Facebook, they understand this. That's the reason why they, after a period of time, they wasn't pushing individual profiles and connecting with people. They started pushing groups.
yes, yes, yeah,
Everything's now about groups now. You do a live stream, you look at your analytics,
yeah,
and you do a live stream on your personal page or your business page, you'll get very little to any engagement.
mm,
Do a live stream to your group.
yeah, yeah,
Because of all the people are in there, they will start watching, and then Facebook, for example, will start pumping your live stream.
yeah,
Why?
yeah,
Because of the lunchroom table. You may call it Ecamm Community, you may call it the Huddle with Walter Strong, but it's still a lunchroom table at the end of the day.
That's it, man. Exactly, exactly, exactly. All right, man. Where can it, man? We can go on, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to be sensitive of your time,
Oh,
your
I'm good,
family
man.
time,
I'm
man.
good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Well, I want people to one, be able to find you and learn more about you, and then also to be able to listen to your content. And actually, I think I may have this up. Let me see if I got this up. Let me I'm going, since this is live. There it is. There we go.
Okay,
I
wow.
got you sorted. I got you sorted. So that's here. So
Definitely.
that, oh, let me do one thing real quick. This is not
Mhm.
right. This isn't right. I'm going to delete that because that's not supposed to be there. That's from the last guest. So this is your YouTube channel where everybody can kind of connect with you at on as well, right?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. That's the
Excellent, man.
YouTube channel.
Excellent, man.
That's
You got some
that's
good stuff. You
that's
got, look at this. You got some good stuff. 100. Oh yeah. How to get your first 100 subscribers. Feel, that feeling stuck one, man. I had to look at that like a couple times. So I apologize if I messed up your views on that one because I
no,
think
no. You go through, as you go through this journey, it becomes a matter of, okay, how authentic do you just want to be authentic and just in front of the camera so that you can get views? And that one may have only gotten not the amount of views that say 100 subscribers, because again, it's a metric that people want. But sometimes you just have to get in front of the camera and say, as much as I understand these things, things
yeah,
are just not working out right now. I'm frustrated and I feel stuck. And sometimes you have to raise your hand and say, am I the only one that's going through this, or is there someone else in the community? And to have the courage to be able to press record or go live on a live show, and to put that type of content, I think one, it was just therapeutic for me, but two, to say, I don't want to be fake.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to just present content to people that say everything is all well. I'm Superman. There is no kryptonite. And sometimes you have to just put real content out that people can identify with.
100%, man. 100%. I'm trying to get something sorted so that I can
Oh,
make sure
okay.
that this is, actually gonna look good for you here because I want to put this back up because I want people to be able to make sure that they can find you. That's the one that that's see, there we go. There we go. Now they can see it now.
Hmm.
They got your website. They got your website down there now. That's
Yes.
scrolling down at the bottom as well too, man. And you did a live stream, you said the other day, and you felt like, or I think I told you it's probably going to be one of your best, because you just said I'm just going to do it, and you didn't really kind of think about it too much. You just kind of went and did it.
Unplanned and unscripted.
Yeah,
The most recent one I did. Yes. Yes. Because sometimes, as content creators, we can get so structured, and I believe planning is important in any walk of life.
yeah,
You want to make a plan to go to Disney World, you got to plan and say Disney World is the destination where we got to go. But there are other times where you just got to just say, look, unplanned, unscripted. We just gonna just talk from the hip and share about where we are, share what our expectations of where we would like to go, maybe get feedback from your audience. And I'm trying to challenge myself even more as more people are in the chat to say, hey, look, you got a camera, you got a mic,
yeah,
come on right now. I'll bring you on right now, because we need to build that community. Again, which goes back to the lunchroom table, because YouTube to me is the only platform separate from Facebook and some of these others that you can put this content here today, and as long as you keep your channel in good standing
yeah, yeah.
and you don't violate any of their
It's
policies,
gonna be there.
it's going to be there for the next 5 to 10 years. And that kind of goes back to when I was telling you about when I found my song on YouTube. To this day I still haven't found out who this guy is, because he's not the record company. He's not the actual person who put the music together.
Yeah,
So I'm saying this is eventually someone who I've come across, who my music, though it was just so short lived, it played such an important part in his life that he
yeah,
said, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to do it in such a way where people love hip hop, but I'm going to share with them some people that they don't know
yeah,
who are
yeah.
just as good. And when he said that in his bio, I said, he thought that of me?
Wow.
Wow. So I'm saying if I can have that impact with just one record, because I kicked it with my record producer. He says, "Man, I still have tracks we worked on that we never put to be released. I still
Man,
have them." And I said, if I could do that with hip hop,
yeah.
what can I do with YouTube
Come on.
when learning how to do this the right way?
And I'm telling you, man, I think that people don't understand that the impact that they could potentially have, and they're sitting down and sitting on their hands. And I appreciate the fact that you're stepping out there, but the other part is that you're helping other people, such as
Hmm.
myself, along the journey. I appreciate your authenticity. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your
Yes.
feedback that you give me, videos and all this other stuff. But most important, I appreciate the fact you came on here came on here tonight, and you were able to kind of truly add value in the Walter Strong the third way
Hmm.
to the audience. And I know they got a whole bunch out of everything that you talked about tonight, whether it was from YouTube strategies and creation to to your story, of you leaving Detroit and going to New York.
Hmm.
Your bouts and your ideas around imposter syndrome, and how you were able to kind of move past that. But more
Hmm.
importantly, how you're moving forward, and you're unashamed of who you are and your faith, and what you want people to get out of your content and out of any encounter with you. So I just want to thank you, man, for being here tonight, from the bottom of my heart, and I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm your biggest fan. I'll be the fan that's in the top row in front of a hostile crowd cheering you on every time.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Stay in the green room for me for a second while I close this puppy out. All right.
All right.
Wow. Um, you know, the thing that I love about this, of what I do, is because, like I say this all the time, is that about 85% of everything that I learned in leadership while I'm in the retail industry, 85% of what I learned was outside of retail. Leadership, um, character, how to talk to people, connecting with people, all those different things. And this is what we try to do. We try to bring people here that you can learn from that are probably outside of anything that you're going to hear in the retail industry. And they can provide you with tips and tricks and techniques and authentic stories about who they are and how you can move from where you are to where you want to be. I just thank you for being here tonight on Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, sponsored by Worthy Retail U. You can go and check us out. If you're looking for some coaching, for to understand a little bit more about where you are so that you can say no to some of those things that are coming across your plate so that you can move into those things that you truly, truly want to do. You can connect with us at worthyretailu.com. Hey, and as we always say, have a great night and God bless. We'll see you soon.